We need your support. The first is, and we'll spend time on agenda item number 2 today, but establish a general cash reserve policy. You've heard year after year after year, there's a window that sort of anticipated we should work within. Accounting says it's 2 years, AI says it's 3 years. Someone need to formalize a policy that says that is the threshold of the cash reserve. The next two go hand in hand, and this is really, again, general fund related, tax revenue related. That we will create a framework where the departments are allocated the appropriate property tax credit on their operations. The second is that if they operate additionally and have reserves left over, that they have the opportunity to retain those reserves for their use. Historically, the general fund operates as a return, a bucket of money that we all drop on our expenses. We operate efficiently. The funds drop back into the bucket. It's, I don't think we have that much favorites here, but it creates potential for attitude and users. Yeah, thoughts and processes that. Any questions about those three? Flip the page there if you would. This is a quick timeline. This is tentative. Two on page 2. That should be on to here recent today. First, the fund balance policy. There's anticipation that we like to do this special study session. Third week, council meetings to get things done. Joey will help facilitate that. It's really asked, but that's what we're asking. So if at all possible, we have 2 study sessions. Adoption of the tentative budget on July 1st, public hearings on July 12th, excuse me, August 12th, and the final adoption of the budget. The next 4 or 5 pages, not going to go through in detail. I just wanted to provide that to you as soon as the framework budget and it's to accomplish the structure of how we break that out, and finally how we're creating the settlement behind the scenes. But I wanted you to see that and have some appreciation for the amount of effort that it's going into this place. Department heads, any comment? Input on that, or you know, any questions? Set that aside and let's go through the budget book itself. Now we're going to tag team this just so you know it's on. And a good bonus to the top of the chapter. So, Tammy is the author of the book. Gets to start us.
The field content and probably just mention here that when you get the electronic version of this document, they're all typical links that will keep you track. And then the city summary pages, that section at the top, that's actually taken from our itself. Mission statement, of course, so this is your pretty standard, so pretty simple. The government use for the public that I think is reading this document. A lot of them different But we'll hear, there's gonna be that structure and.
I did mention two things. One, this is not a new idea. We're copying other communities that are successful in this process. But two, clarity. So what you tell we adopt the budget, and we intend to then turn to a public facing document. All of this information federal for
Draft form, so. There's still a lot more to do for specific department budget. The next page, also that section is just taken from our comprehensive plan as well, it's graphics. That's irrelevant. The next one is an overall city structure. Got a lot of. Trigger.
page 7 is we inserted 2 pages out of the city's budget that we've most responsibilities would also to help understand what our budget system are. Highlights there the budget balance is a number of concerns. It's our policy statement to our residents. It must ensure that my continuous services should be ready for our comprehensive and strategic plan. Most importantly here is with the budget management tool. That is how we as elected officials ensure our residents that we build the trilogy process, how we prioritize and how we accomplish. On page 8, it speaks to the different role of executive and administrative. It acknowledges that in Idaho code, it says the council sets the budget and different staff and the lead and preparation. Budget forward. Budget officer has a significant role with that. And the legislative possibly piece. There should be 5 videos that we use to make our decisions about what new services should we provide, how services that we should eliminate, service should we provide. What other factors needed to support growth, and then what are the policy priorities that we should fulfill with the budget. Valuable role to play in the strategic planning process for the budget, engage the citizens, priorities, results of all and policy decisions. Okay, that.
In the next few pages are a couple statistics for most of our departments. By the and I think this is just helpful. By that we have or something that hires officers. Oh, my goodness, often, oh, God, I really- so I think. Next one, also thank you to encourage Hartford. I need to be. The building department statistics, talk about single and multi-family permits. And Parks and Rec, then just how many parks we have, the miles of walk that we have. Our top off. I don't think people realize how many parks we have, but we are responsible for maintaining. The effort that goes into that. There's along the playground. Tree reading, so. Our rec programs and for 2025, and then also all of our the next page for street sanitation and wastewater services. Miles that we maintain in the city. Sanitation costs, which is great. Found that out, we were gaining our snow power.
I would think it's.
Yeah. So the, our tonnage, it's a little bit. And then our. Line. Then.
Thing about our infrastructure is an asset, and also. Our operating value, or it's not reached. I think I heard Steve Smart say that we appreciate you. We're grateful that our faucets work, but we gotta break through the water lines.
Yes, or the activity. City profile. There's something we haven't seen. Expected or something, it should have moved.
On the job, certificate from our complex inspector. And then we are contracting with the gym. Long. Oh, yes, we get. For.
Decision, owners, contract, all that, everything. How do you ever satisfied on having the service that you
Check on. That they define what the federal duty that we reviewed before. Once goes to law.
Exactly, you don't have to. You are not where you put it,
Yeah,
is the answer.
unless you.
On the city trends piece, there's a summary on page 15, and then it rolls into details for each of those categories in the following. These 4 school years to see what our trends are. Not necessarily the exact actions of each of those years, but here are our trends. What limitations have we had in the future. So I moved on this page 15, those categories. Over the last 4 years, our budget has grown 8%. That's a 4-year number, so. The property tax portion of that is around 33%. Levy rates down. People run for the eye, typically less concerned about the actual budget number. The levy rate is the calculation that comes out. After the budget's in, not that it should be same. It actually valuation assessment of the city grew faster than our budget. The county really acknowledged them. So she said there was a big assessments. Citywide. 20 years ago, so that drives the levy. The number of employees has grown 11%, wages is up 33%. CPI, which is the population is 5. Number of all the places actually down, but there's a reason. You may want to shoot this.
Essentially, we have a shopping area.
Yeah. We presented the statistics the way they are. There's a reason that they show.
I wonder if that will change once they finish out there. Hopefully not.
Yeah, and it will be a different, you're gonna be parameters like. That is.
It'll be different.
Everything. It's what it's working on, tax.
Says our council.
At 249 Coronado. Will be treated.
Insider information. EMS calls up about 6%. Our cost per capita. Services. Our cost per capita is up about 42%. And there are some reasons why that is occurring also. Appreciate Scott. These topics off of them. We've had some visiting tools conversation with the practice that it's not that our costs just went up. It's that is something to say that by design. We have funded operation that historically staff that should operation historically were. So some of this why that number is up that 42%, but I also think it's to keep a pulse on.
Yeah, we did this. If I was around for 2 years. So.
Concerns about that. Just nowhere. We detail each one of those broken out into 4-year segments, 2 or 3 or 4 pages. If there's anything in that pops up. Take a quick look at 23 though, and that represents what she's actually saying. Was the retail effect which goes away is calls in 25 and 26 with description.
What is it? The state shopping.
Say that again.
Did that decline in the?
Yeah, matter of fact, that's such a drop. State goals and every year. By ours. What a way to call us.
Yeah, I see that.
You know it all.
It's a big role. The five lots of these All right.
So.
Well, the assumptions, that's a combination of Eric and Scott.
Well, if the revenue, given financial record that he had, he could refer to see. Have to be what we're trying to receive there. And just say it was possible. Areas of are our main sources of tax revenue. And combat. Area and. Primary receive, and they are subject to. State. For that. And then concern for 21 forward, most of it is something to just give them a little bit of it. There were. Scans. Anticipating more previously last year. We talked to the table of investment. Say. This is perspective. My first one for this. State roads are out of whack. There's no cutbacks. But you need more cut. Yeah, how do you anticipate reducing? What? You know, our trend has been very strong. We've had a minor change in post and have the surplus fund balance to be. And that's why we're writing that out. Anticipating that. Try to keep it as one of the hand balance. You're up like a big swing, it's not like it's happening. And you're the mess up there. You're anticipating you probably have 5 years. I'm honest.
Yeah. So mid July, we get our file from the county.
So yeah, Johnson is a server for our person yesterday.
We can provide information for this other part of time. Their estimate for the.
I have one on the. Percent of the current revenues. I didn't look through it to see what shows what it's done.
9,000. If that bill passes, expect about 9,000 drop in our liquor revenue share, which isn't huge for us. Other cities were definitely impacted a lot more than we were.
They go the state sales tax, and that includes the energy tax as well.
Yes.
What's the percentage that we need for that? It's the same as the.
The state that I'm through.
Let's see which is this.
And then the. Energy group is just separated because it is that I'm specifically for that purpose. Group family funds, those homes are. Richer is something that we figure is something that moves forward. Based on great studies that do the Washington sanitation. That our predictions and increase on all 3 of those. Or what they need.
for your the ongoing 5%. We're going to talk, it's ongoing, whatever, 5% water. Increasing the 3.5. That's it.
For the recommendation, you would want to treat it as a job.
But that model predicts what we need, but future time, future capital.
So this, that 5% increase in trial managers for capital.
Yes, we were saying, I think we were saying.
That's how it's going to be. Say that, yeah.
See here for the different who's going to come out on my grounds. We didn't represent in this book, but we've looked at on balance treatments. Every one of our categories. And all are increasing by design. Same projects, sanitation, isn't a rapid decline as they're aware of the working sanitation rate study now. With the goal of that being completed before we do this process. A hard discussion on this year for year using change over rate for
I would, for sure, they basically done that as long as we did, I get some of those small increases. Last year, we increased it 8% because we knew we were on our. And then the year we got, we did make a small, to go in the counties. I don't know, but it increased the best. Just to cover the small. I believe they kind of sound like. I'm probably right, since it changed, since it started that, but it just changed all.
the study I did have was the first sanitation of the study. And come first to water, wastewater. We never sort of process on sanitation.
Okay, ready to compensation? These compensation pages include the base policy for the city as described in our personnel policy. Change probably would want to revise this same system to define our payroll increases and cost of pay changes. And we're use that markup system so we can see that chart. Our compensation chart. That chart's used in conjunction with it's on page 30. Just if you want to look at your job, you take page 30, if you look there's page 30, that is the bucket page 13 and that. And you can see what the department we decided we was that goal. So using these two together, you get one increase. It's published on our website. This one is for FY27, so it's not a better tell. The same one says information solved. We'll try to tell it's transparent and everybody goes on. We do a salary review just every 3 years or so to make sure that those changes for each grade is met. So wage expenses, down in that fourth paragraph, the expectation is that they'll increase 5 to 6% each year. So I'll probably add to this to say, okay, why doesn't it just increase it? Well, the chart here. Maybe the market, somebody in the market gets a lower rate increase on an annual, that someone who's higher. Point people to point higher than that is Yeah, they don't know the city, you know, they haven't been to the south, they don't have, may not have the experience, and we can bring them in higher. You. Typically, also, look at their population, is 2%. I to last. And a good portion of those that are over that experience have less than that because they've been promoted out. Constantly, pays are getting higher into the salary, so a crop range is up 6% of your entire range. All the new employees are making 6%. And a good portion of our employees in the proficiency range, that is 8%. A good portion of our employees are getting 5%, but higher than inflation. So it's not just an inflationary increase. Usually the inflationary increase apply it as an entire table. We don't use point to inflation for our year. Addresses inflation and also these applies the pay increase in the individual employee ratio to the market rate. That's how we kind of keep it. So that's why salary increases are 5 to 6%. We also have the retention and training program that we pay for by what we kids. Yeah, student type of job and certification license as required, and then they can use the grade, which would more pay increase that. So that 5%, 5 to 6% comes out as well. So that's why that's above the big ones above the CPI. Kind of general overview for them. On average, just from 10. During COVID years, we had 20 scared. We're hiring a lot, but that's been the highest. So I mean,
After all
not. We had sometimes last year, we said it, or we did before. But they had enough equal behaviors going years, retirements, that type of thing in the next year. So, I can get you information, detailed.
Yeah, just curious how you stack up.
All right, so that's basically compensation. And then we go on and talk about benefits. Again, this is on published policy. Size. More into it. List all the benefits that currently offered. That's what's listed there on page 29. Under 29, the expected increase in benefit. And that's the issue. Never had staff as well. So I think we're going to talk here. We talked about in the that's a later section where we'll talk about. And
We're gonna put this next section up. Very cool. Start here, there, so that's all items. Page 34, 35, 36, 36.
And the something more new to me and I'm like something address on identify the impact on starting to group funds. Really have 7 individual government funds, 3 enterprise funds, 1 transfers. Those allow us to track and keep track of which one are the enterprise funds are and you don't do any
taxpayers. So those are all. And then internal service fund, essentially brought to the fund, which. But so we're really expecting their, the fund houses to be needed, to be strictly eligible. Depending on how we provide items. After they're signed, opposed to the service and council, this city there, where we should. Approval and put us on. And Margaret, reading what I needed in fund. Yes, you have to do something like this, I think, just so.
You have to pay this money, or it's like committed would be like our tax. There's a specific purpose, we can only use it.
We have a fund house, cash statement. February.
Then schedules next and for the debts.
That's something. So, kind of, we're into a little detail about what the city has. Small Excel spreadsheet that is really. We have some. One email. We have some in we have the errors. We basically. I think on quite a while. We do have two that should be calendar. Water well. We have set up. Really want to follow one back. Other than that, I didn't realize. I usually put up a whole bunch of detail. All the rooms and. So I'm reading the last whole paragraph. You should get started on 8:21. You just click. Nothing will something else. It will be stated. So we'll just I didn't know if we were going to share. More that or details of the or no.
Eric, maybe you could this one. Remember a paragraph that talked about our total ability for events relative to the issues. There's a statutory question. There's agreement that we have. That's one. And
I have the.
we're way under the threshold.
Yeah, we're well.
Sorry.
And that's one of the.
But some of the other things that we did, discuss. Fact that, it is, what is it? It's off. It is one of those, and I believe we'll pass it. Good for them, so it's- I know I thought that.
It's pretty good, man. Yeah. It's operational.
That's the part.
Yep, we have a minute. I understood.
What did you? That way.
Yeah, and then so. It's a necessity to do any sort of project like this. And so, to the extent people may wanna. Take issue with it, because more lack of understanding. And provide this building right here, the way it was done. The time that it was done, the way in which we. Invested in the city, provide an asset that is probably. 3 or 4 times more value than it was. Such a big was a whole. That's great. So, honestly, if you do get comments like that, it's more of having a lot of education and understanding that it really. Good. Sometimes it's taken for education.
This plus, Alan, that's what.
Who did?
Like, you know,
Who did?
Well,
Well, they should. We don't vote on it. I have a place to make. And I think that's the education.
right, it is.
It would be interact, I would say 5 more friends.
If I stand aside, I'm going back now. When I was like, this coach, I'm going to sit here, I write something.
Yeah.
Perspective is important.
Yes.
Education.
They just had a discussion on, so corporate, life. He said it's education.
Education. Not the same.
You know, when you look at that, and it's on the very cool.
Yeah. You look back, I mean, it wouldn't happen. Well, it was.
Saturday. I was on kids that. So I started looking. We're gonna tour the place, so speed, right? And we got people with resume, ask people outside of the state. That have one. So this is a heck of a deal. Stupid, not to take it.
It's interesting.
And maybe we should put something like that in here with it.
I don't know.
Well, what I'm thinking is, what are financial buildings at the fire stations? We have that something we can, or we could have that same. I don't know. Maybe it's really political thing would be, but with that stuff we discussed, we all gotta have. This is crazy, yeah, but it is, it's like, like. We're right, we're teaching good, we're right on it. We get, just where we have that.
Sure, insurance.
Instead we weren't there yet, but, you approach that issue, that probably would be a good idea. Let it go. This was a good, city hall. Which one? So that might turn purpose down the road, but if I think what's done is done, I'll leave it now. You don't have to do the fire station. That's the old team. Okay.
Growth tools, we can share with council and nationally our residents some opportunities that we have for actually for listed 4 to 6 pages at the current first part shows the fund balance from parks of just over $1.2 billion. Second graph shows the period at which those the represents expenditures, parks, the green represents statutory requirement that we those and then order that you like. That's the purchase. Our obligations. We required to we are required to so that information is reproduced. Just the important. You fund balance in parks 1.2 million. It's about 130,000. Fund balance police about 478,000. When we look at the expenditures in police, this is probably a discussion outside this. That's to your benefit. That's how that system works.
I'll get close to that 8-year period. And then it's both the state period.
Just spend it out against what the district has spent. That 6,000 expenditure. 24 out of police, that's an expenditure that was in prior was actually the actual extent of those consulting fees that would have Eric, do you want to make investment funds?
This is just a question. Situation we have on right now. Regional state LGFT. On our point, this I think trying to be prudent what we have for the people funds available. Trying to say better if we can. Like I say, already know that if we have that in our analysis, we just said that we should be creating ability or you know what they want to
Yeah, and this, please appreciate this is also very much a work in progress as we try and discover where those dollars are. But at first glance, we have $40 million in fund balances, and we have 10 million invested. There's some opportunity there, and there's a lot of work to be done to discover where that really sits, what the opportunities are. Sure, those dollars are invested.
But I know it takes some work.
But I think it's worth it, yes. And I feel for this.
I try to commit every time. And he wisely stepped away from that. Joe, you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, we adopt an annual city fee by department for permits, licenses, services, and like this summary says, it's just to I make sure that those fees align with the current operation costs, ensure equitable distribution of costs among those who directly benefit from these services. Typically, we would do the budget and do this in September. We're going to do it with the budget. The mayor has tasked me to get with some of the department heads to talk to them about their fees that have never increased since I've been here. So we will start that process.
Another example that I can use. You went to the pavilion, want an extra garbage, charge dollars. For our staff.
Let's talk some more about employee benefits. So, on page 52, we talk about the health. Of course, the health plan is 90%. All the rest of it, vision, line, employee assistance, all is in 5%. So all of it is the costs. Not less than input producer distribution, like 27 estimates, about $24,000, below that, per jet house without your conscious. So pretty silent, expense. We could indicate that I have mitigated it through September. That's an issue by that removes the cost of built-in profit. You fully insured product. There's a built-in profit for provider. And states we don't pay that. But it also allows us to take advantage of the years the claims are low. Conversely, we will pay more the years we're like. The last several years, our claims have been very high claims. So it's not extremely expensive, which you can offset by switching providers, the disruption for employees to do that. But the claims expense remains the possible biggest reason that we have had over the last several years. If you look at on page 52, FY22 and years prior to that, it's on it. First line, we're on cost, basically 10%. And since we've done, FY24, FY25, gone into 26, 27 are all expected increases. And it's driven by our claims, who's having higher claims for our employee population. Well, some years is a high number of claims that just below the $50,000 stop. The individual claim, which means the stop loss provider pays the balance of that claim. Then there's also a aggregate on that, which means all amount of claims exceeds that. But they had it was but we have an aggregate limit to 1.5 million around in that range. And when claims total that in case those. So some of the increases too are increases in employees. Because when we're talking about adding employees, you're at 24,000. So some of that is that expense as well. So when you look at FY24, FY25, we added our humans 2 years, 6 firefighters, police officers, all the jobs. that those increases drove that, helped drive that increase in energy costs. I think the plan model is very wise. City to have. Other cities are just going to that. We can fall since this sounds to themselves. So, but we do expect volatility in our plan. But hopefully we'll see some years where that drops back down to that 8 to 10% range. It drops out to 15%. By now, our collections, global plan is 15%. Any questions about that? Anything else you think I need to add or?
Page 54, starting with discussion about future challenges for a couple of pages and then some opportunities. Okay. Great opportunity. Moving forward, property tax general is 2%. Invite every school district is those dollars used all the foregone amount. Our 2% cap. Show not that construction on that counts, but we really have that special gap now where our limitations on property. Here and they have that medical gas services. Just quickly mention this. We start to piece together some of those numbers about wages, 5 to 6%, healthcare, 10 to 12%, revenue services. How we manage that and then partially about how we create opportunities for additional revenues. Also, but that cap is like wanted to share with you legislative actions that are coming now. This bill actually favored schools. The state is trying to touch how cities can manage our property tax budgets. The big one is they're proposing that somebody's going to have the ability to not and make that over. They're trying to do away with that process, which we nobody understands. But why it's not so it's that obviously would have an impact to us. As I represented at the start of this conversation, I would really like to grow services. I think going forward, there is.
How they could do a thing of like this to be almost says there's writing that work on is not cash reserve. Exception of it is. So we think there's one.
Top page 55, I wanted to share with council that this is looming in our future. What the graph is trying to represent is 92. It did not affect the overall budget of the city. The state paid a portion of those property taxes as a problem. So in 2020, this is important. I'll walk through the graph. You should understand. In 2023, our total budget is the combination of the food. It's paid by the orange is paid by the state. That bill only is in effect. What will occur in 2028 is our residents see a bump property tax bill to the state's I think we need to prepare one, right? It's not that our budgets have gone up, it's the tax formula and participation of the state. It's expected to expire. Maybe bill is not expired. So, I think could extend it, but. Yeah, there's the current. Situation is going to not be true. And then, when we look out our new growth, in my property tax grows by 3%. And in 2025, anticipate this ratio to be greater, but half of our new construction side. Likely to go, I think it's certainly higher. And by design. That's part of the impact of those that. Don't have this public safety. Providing additional services without. That's a challenge that people advantage. Two opportunities. We're going to try and promote our technical development. New construction only that can come to us. Likely outside of an urban community. But also, criteria and the streets are already there, walk maps are already there. This information is a little bit outdated, but one person. Copy with the city. It is high on my priority list. I'm seeking your support that we create different options, incentives, any zoning level that we need to figure out how to local construction and our property tax rate. To page 57, discussions. I don't really want to propose that. Position should. You did have expertise in the last 2 or 3 years. Duties have extended. We may have the opportunity to do that. The point is, we have to do better. Outside resources. Yes, will we come to you with our detailed departments future these types of positions? That's department details will come to you and presentations from each department beginning with Bye. Stop.
No.
Andy, Harry, Julie.
That means covering a week through the administration department, and if you remember the questions from this public service department, in all the Maya authority private version.
Direction.
Very interesting. One thing on what we did is so. Cost to hire a replacement employee. Because they don't live in some percentage of all. Places I don't think are.
Yeah, the state really on the chief's house, it resonated. with my prior experience here. Student. Don't qualify. Essentially for 700. When I toured this facility, they were doing interviews. Probably that ratio, but one position and is to both how we take care of our employees, but also the facility that they're able to put in. Safety.
As far as staff, full staffs and. Yeah.
Okay, let's move to agenda item 3 with Bridger and Derek. And the design standards.
Last. We could work on that. So. Eric, fine. As I described it, and all, most of these standards have existed in some version of information that's out. Some of it's just that designers have learned over the time, all the time, but the same. So we've compiled all that. Mention the format of the little bit. Because it tends to modify. Yes, so. Cities out that was after public works construction. Why? And it gets updated for time. It's built to serve everything we want. So it's got some built into it that's intended to be modified based on. That's what we've done. We call it that the idea has an effect on cost of construction. As I said, most of this is not yet in place. We just putting it in one place and finding it better. It's consistent cost. So we'll just figure out action question. Solve this certainly. At the next meeting, we would ask if you found it.
They just want to just do. Our something. There's no doubt they don't.
If anything, it's just, yes, it's requesting that they be higher standard, which a lot of that. We want this part of the product so that we can be consistent. Or we have found this job is much better. So requesting as part of the process review cities standards. So most cities do have a version of those very consistent with what we tell almost important. Is trying to have, but we can have some different. We've got that. So develop what works best. We don't see pushback
I honestly don't. Because it's taking several years to work on, we know what we, you know. Yeah, moving towards, and so. Anything that not would be controversial or. House and problems, had conversations with contractors. So I think we're at responsible.
I think if anything, it'd probably make us easier, the city, easier to kind of regulate. So that's kind of what this whole document is all about. Check. That helps, and just.
Street law process president.
Yeah.
Sorry, Roger, what did you do that?
Very much.
Bridge segments of action. Any general announcements? So, yeah.
I think there's one about that. We were looking at the. There's and all that stuff. You said there's two of those guys that could jump skiing. Right. Now, my silly question here is. You know, keep asking somebody about. I think you said you can perhaps that. You will compare to the test.
The funds that currently have that are they restricted?
Yes.
I believe it is.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you'll say also. Given from that comes from all the departments, right? So. Now, does this kind of sewer go? Yes.
One of them is. The other one.
Our rate studies, we looked at that, so our rate study anticipates when those payments will not come and will be.
So it's also thinking in terms of, does the loads already there, right? You know, where we wrong, the loads already there, turn around, take that money. So you can split that money, put it out, for example, into another debt that we have, or turn around, put it in capital. If this is whatever, I think it's intended to once that is belong to it, the money that would have that was just contributed for the operations. And so we would count a part of if we hadn't accounted for that, our rate increases. That's just.
Any other comments? We'll adjourn study session. See everybody. Thank you. Oh.